Welcome back to Chapter 12. Remember we ended on this slide, which were the three methods of ranking investment proposals: the payback method, the internal rate of return, and net present value. So let's detail those three methods out now. So first, the payback method. The payback period is the length of time necessary for the sum of the expected annual cash inflows to equal the cash investment. A cutoff period is established for comparison. Capital proposals with a payback in excess of the cutoff are rejected. Deficiencies of the method are that inflows after the payback period are ignored. The pattern of cash flows is ignored. Therefore, time value of money is not considered. Though not conceptually sound, the payback period is frequently used because it's simply easy to use. It emphasizes liquidity, and it has a quick return, which is important to firms and industries characterized by rapid technological advancement. Net present value. During periods of high inflation, a quick payback on a project indicates a rapid return of funds for reinvestment at perhaps even higher inflated returns, which some companies prefer over the superior internal rate of return or net present value methods. But with the net present value method, the cash inflows are discounted at the firm's cost of capital or some variation of that measure. If the present value of the cash inflows equals or exceeds the present value of the cash investment, the capital proposal is acceptable. So when do we use this? We use the NPV function of Excel to demonstrate the difference in net present value between investments A and B. The use of Excel provides the opportunity to use sensitivity testing with various discount rates to demonstrate the change in NPV. On to the internal rate of return. The IRR method requires calculation of the rate that equates the cash investment with the cash inflows. The calculation procedure is the same as the yield to maturity computation presented in Chapter 9. An investment option where the IRR exceeds the minimum return on investment, usually the firm's cost of capital or some variation of that measure, is a candidate for approval. To fully comprehend the meaning of the internal rate of return, the student needs to understand how IRR relates to NPV, and so it is important to show that the IRR is the discount rate, interest rate, that makes NPV equal 0. We use the IRR function of Excel to demonstrate the difference between the rates of return for investments A and B. We can show that the goal-seek function in Excel that was used in Chapter 10 to calculate the yield to maturity can also be used to calculate in IRR, since the yield to maturity on a bond is nothing more than the bond's internal rate of return. A financial calculator can also be used to determine the IRR for both annuities and uneven cash flows. We demonstrate the keystrokes needed to solve the IRR with uneven cash flows. To consider some capital budgeting results, let's look at selection strategy. All non-mutually exclusive projects having an NPV equaling 0, which also means the IRR equals cost of capital, should be accepted under normal conditions. If the NPV equals 0, it means that the company will earn its cost of capital on the project. The NPV method and the IRR method always agree on the accept or reject decision on non-mutually exclusive projects. A disagreement may arise between the NPV and IRR methods when a choice must be made between mutually exclusive proposals or when all acceptable proposals cannot be taken due to capital rationing. The primary cause of disagreement is the differing reinvestment assumptions. The NPV method inherently assumes reinvestment of cash flows at the cost of capital, while the IRR method assumes reinvestment of cash inflows at the internal rate of return. The most conservative net present value technique is usually the recommended approach when a conflict in ranking arises. Let's stop here, and I will pick this up again with the reinvestment assumption and then move into capital rationing.